thanks for being here and thanks for doing it. I know you've got a lot on, and and you've had a lot on in the last couple of years.
Definitely.
Your industry must have been, if not the hardest hit, certainly one of them. Just sort of describe that situation over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you, Nola. Amazing work. And I'm so delighted to be here and share our story. Definitely, without question, 2020 was the most toughest year in the history of Virgin Atlantic's 36-year operational history. Definitely, in fact, personally, watching that film at the beginning of the day, I felt really emotional watching it, actually, because I think everybody has their stories that they sort of see and relive. But oh my God, if I sort of think back to everything we've been through, which I know is reflective of what you've all been through as well, it was pretty phenomenal and quite traumatic for everybody working for Virgin Atlantic. I mean, just as a bit of context to what we went through, then obviously in March 2020, the US government closed their borders to the UK, so that was the first sort of big piece of news for us. And then, of course, we had the government telling everybody to work from home, which, of course, we did. But for an airline, the majority of our people are frontline, so they continued to work. But, of course, when the lockdown happened, the first one in March, literally flying pretty much ceased at that point. And we had to then reinvent ourselves and think about our revenue stream through our cargo flying. And we, at the same time in March, released our first cargo-only flight, bringing PPE equipment back from Shanghai to support the NHS. And then, of course, in April, flying literally came to a standstill, and we had 90 days of no passenger flying at all, which was just horrendous. All the airports were empty. There was just nothing in the, as you all remember. So on the 5th of May, we had to make our first big announcement of redundancies to our teams. And our vision at Virgin Atlantic is to be the most loved travel company, and our purpose is that everybody can take on the world. And I think I reflect on everything we've heard today and the mindset piece that we heard earlier through yourself, James and David, was really important, because Shai Weiss, our CEO, at that point said, I want to show everybody in our company what being most loved really means. So when we we gave that announcement, we did it live, we got the 10,000 plus team members together and really talked to them about, this is our mission, we have to survive. We had no government funding, we were the only UK airline to not have any government funding at all, so we had to literally find our own way through this crisis. And it was really hard. I mean, we are literally effectively half the size that we were originally. We made 47% of our teams redundant. So yeah, what we went through was pretty bad. But I think what I carry with me is the resilience of our people, and the kindness of our leadership definitely made us make decisions that now we are eternally grateful for. And one of the big decisions that we had to make was our crew. So I was the Vice President of Cabin at the time, leading our cabin crew, our 4,000 cabin crew, through the pandemic. And one decision we made was that we would make our teams redundant because we had no choice. We had no money. But we would put them in a holding pool. So they were made redundant. They were in a holding pool where they could work voluntarily or find another job. But we knew at some point flying would resume. We didn't know when that was, but we said, when it does resume, you are coming back to us on the same pay, the same benefits, the same seniority as when you left. So it is as if you have not been made redundant from our company. And that's exactly what we did, which is why now, actually, we don't have so many problems as a lot of the airlines that you're currently seeing, because everybody came back, minus those that found other roles. But it felt good, and I think that was true to every decision that we made. We wanted to do it with care and kindness, so actually we were most loved, even at the most difficult times. Wow.
And which was quite different. We won't name any other airlines, but it was quite different to some other airlines' approaches during the period. So it sounds like it's paying dividends. Yeah. But there was a point when you could be flying again, but with certain conditions. So what conditions were your staff working under, and how did you support them?
Yeah, so I don't know if we've got a picture here, but it was interesting, because as well as the world going crazy in terms of personal lives and people feeling the consequences of COVID-19, our crew Of course, we're the only UK airline to fly only long haul, so all of our flights are long haul. So of course our crews had to wear masks, at all times. But what was so traumatic for them was that some of the countries that they flew to, like Hong Kong, Shanghai, were very, very stringent in their regulations, in their procedures. And so, of course, the PPE took on a whole new meaning of hazmat suits and, as you see in the photo here. But what was really interesting, again, leading that team of people, so when people went to Hong Kong, there was a chance that if anybody of the crews was positive en route, they would be transported to Penny Bay Quarantine Centre. I don't know if you read about it, but it was pretty stringent conditions that the teams were in. And when they arrived at Penny Bay, they literally were in a bed. They had no communication with anybody. So we had to spend every day, every minute of every day, 24/7, making sure they had a WhatsApp so they could communicate with each other, with the captain and the flight service manager. We had to make sure we phoned their family, their friends, to make sure that people knew that they were okay, that they were going to come home. We had to lobby the local government, our own government, to get them back home as quickly as possible, because some were there for a month or more. It was until you had a negative result, you had to stay in that centre. So it was really traumatic. So so that was really what we were dealing with. So Nola talked about mental health first aiders, and we, in response to that, did quite a bit of work around setting up for our own teams mental health first aiders, so that we could really make sure that our teams were safe, secure, had somebody to talk to, and really make sure that they felt that we cared for them and they knew we cared for them. And my role in the cabin role was every single week without fail, I had a call with our mental health first aiders to ask them, how are you? We asked that question, how are you doing? And the emotional bond that I have with those, 200, 300 mental health first aiders that we had across our crew, just phenomenal. When I see them now, we literally get emotional. We sort of, because we've shared such personal stories that I don't think we'll ever share again, because it was just sort of, quite unique. But I felt really good about it. But it was the rigour of doing it every single week without fail, and not missing 1 week. Otherwise, people would think something's wrong. I think that was something that...
You said you were working to a kind of ratio of first aiders to...
Yeah, absolutely. So typically for airlines, people are saying 1 in 5 for crew is really good. We have got we've got 1 in 3. We want to get to 1 in 2 would be amazing, but actually it's probably not possible. But we are really investing a lot more resource in our mental health first aiders, and in fact our crew did a lot of work with Project Wingman, which was supporting the NHS during the crisis, and they have given us very kindly free mental health first aider qualifications for every crew member who supported them during the pandemic and made a difference, obviously, to the lives of people. So so it's really good.
I put on my slide that you see that almost as a differentiator now in the market.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, the passion that people have as a first aider for their teams is outstanding, and it is a differentiator, because we absolutely want our people to feel most loved, and have that real sense of this is what it feels like to have care, wrapped around you, so that you know that you've got somebody to talk to at any point in time.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier about policy versus guidance.
Yeah.
When you were making all these sorts of difficult decisions, how did you decide? What was your framework?
Yeah, as context to that, we coming out of the pandemic, we set ourselves a formula for being most loved, which was happiness plus productivity times mindset. So happiness we defined as connection with our purpose. It was around sense of belonging, and strength of leadership was our sort of definition of happiness. And then productivity in terms of really making sure that people are being effective in their role, and then the mindset of actually how do we think about things and really sort of make our decisions. So for us, we went guidance initially around, we wanted it to be based on trust. We had three sort of key areas that we based our decisions on: trust, flexibility, and accountability, to really make sure that people felt that actually we were allowing them accountability. Allowing people to make a decision as to when, for the ground teams, those that came into work, we said 2 to 3 days a week. You could come into work, but you decide what you do, when you do it, to make sure that it works for you. And that's pretty much, what we did.
And these principles are kind of sustaining, they're with you to stay.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's quite interesting. We fundamentally want to make people feel that we trust them to do the right thing. Of course, we have the sort of difference between our crews and our ground teams, so we try and sort of think about the workforce as a whole. But for the ground teams, absolutely, we are. It's working well. People are coming in. We are having to really think about getting more people in to get a bit of a buzz into the office. But it is, they are definitely here to stay.
And one thing you mentioned when we were speaking was around how you engaged with employee resource groups in your different resource groups.
Yeah.
A picture of some of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So all of our principles and our policies, in fact, are sort of passed through our networks. So when I joined Virgin Atlantic 4 years ago, I set up Be Yourself, which is our community of diversity, inclusion and equity, to really think about what can we do to allow people to be themselves, because actually only when you're yourself can you be happy and then really be at your best from a performance perspective. And part of that work was to develop our networks, which were our Pride network, which is our LGBTQ plus network. DEN is our disability engagement network. Scarlet is our women's network, and Valued is our ethnic diversity network. And DEN really supported us in our return to work around, actually, from a disability perspective, what do we need to think about? From a reasonable adjustment point of view, how can we do things differently? And make sure that actually we were taking into consideration all of the requirements of our people.
And I think we're starting to observe that with some other companies, the growing importance and use and mainstreaming almost of these networks. So was this a shift for you from where you had been with your networks? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I was saying to John over lunch that we did have 50 members of our DEN network, and now we've got, I think, 3,500. So it's really increased, and each one has an executive sponsor. So I'm the exec sponsor for DEN, and it's incredible, the passion that comes from those that are literally chairing and responsible for the work. And they have built, for example, a Wellbeing journal whereby if you have a disability, if you're autistic, for example, the journal allows you to write down what your disability is, what you need from somebody to understand you better, what kind of questions are really helpful to you, what kind of information would help you, so that if you move across the company or you have a promotion or you go into another team, you share your journal at every stage of your people journey. And it just allows people to feel that actually they're understood and they don't have to go through this energy sort of sapping exercise of explaining again what it feels like to be autistic and what you need from the person, although you would do it anyway, but it just gives them a head start, and it's really important. So it's great work actually.
I remember when we worked together and the LGBT network was set up in that company, previous company.
Yeah.
And just working with them, and somebody, and this had not crossed my mind, I don't know why, but somebody saying, you don't come out once. You come out every time you change jobs, every time there's a new team member, or, and every time you've got to think it through, how do I manage that, etc.
Definitely.
I like the idea of the journal.
Yeah, it's good.
Forward,
definitely, I can share it as well.
That's fantastic, Estelle. Thank you for that.